Hi, and welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Brendan Kelly, and it is a pleasure to be able to be here and share with you ideas around how to renovate without over-capitalising. Before we get into the conversation per se, I would like to just go through some disclaimers. Results mentoring, as fundamentals, the results mentoring preserves the right for all copyright. The advice that we give here is not specific in nature. It is general advice. The outcomes from what we speak about are yours and yours alone to achieve. There are risks in any investment, and we do our very best to support you with as much information as we can to help you make the right buying decisions, but the decisions are ultimately yours to make. But it's time now to get into how to renovate and renovate without over-capitalising. Now, there are many people here tonight. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's a pleasure to be able to share with you as much as we can around doing your property investing accurately and correctly in order to make great money for yourselves. Now, tonight's conversation being one on renovation, we've deliberately opened it up to all people who are interested in renovation. It could be renovating your own place. It could be as an owner-occupier. It could be, you're looking to do a buy, reno, sell project. It could be you want to support somebody else in a renovation as a joint venture or an agreement in some form. It could be that you're looking to do a renovation for rent. Either way, there are some basics that if you approach this renovation from will give you a greater potential than normal to be able to make money and to be able to preserve costs as well as amplifying profits. And what I want to do is go through those tonight so that you're able to then take advantage of what you pick up today, apply in your own world, and then be able to do your renovations more effectively and more profitably. But for those who are not familiar with us, and as I look down the name of attendees, there are a number of names that I'm not familiar with, so welcome everybody. But for those who are unfamiliar with who we are, give you an idea of who we are. I want to run through just for a few minutes a little bit of my background and the background of results mentoring. I'm a property investor. I've been a property investor for a few decades now. I am an active renovator, residential developer, commercial developer. The deals that you see there are both that I've been involved in as examples. The one is a structural reno on the left. The other is a multi-story commercial development, which is currently underway. I'm an author, wrote a book called The Real Deal with a co-director of results mentoring, and that would be Simon Buckingham. I write articles quite regularly for magazines, Your Investment Property Magazine, and historically other magazines when they were around. And I'm a public speaker. I teach, train, and educate from stage where possible. Given that that's no longer possible or not possible at the moment, part of that journey then is speaking and educating as best we can through online webinars. Welcome. I am also the CEO and director of a company called Property Predictions. Property Predictions is a market research company and does analytics on the statistics of property data for the purpose of identifying those suburbs with the greatest potential for growth, for median price movements, so that I can determine then those suburbs going down, those suburbs staying static, and those suburbs going up. And I can identify within those suburbs whether they're good for renovation, good for development, good for positive cash flow, good for first home buyers, and some of the dynamics that occur and markets that occur, whether it's a upgrader market or a retiree market. And with that, then I've got an insight into what's happening in suburbs at a suburb level right across the country, wherever the statistics are available. So that helps me then to identify for my own property investing and for those who engage in the predictions services, where the market might be heading to make better and more informed buying and selling decisions. I'm also a director of the Results Mentoring Program, Results Mentoring Proprietary Limited. I co-direct with Tony and Simon, and we are property investing mentors. So we support property investors in making better buying decisions for themselves, better investing decisions. We support all strategic approaches. We've done a lot of strategic approaches. We've done renovation, subdivisions, developments, as I said earlier. We've done positive cash flow, negatively geared. We've done vendor finance. We have done overseas investing, local investing. We've done commercial developments. We've done a lot of stuff, joint venture agreement, money partner agreements, and we've made money throughout. And having that experience allows us to train, educate, and support those who are interested in advancing their own investing career path, their own investing success path, far more efficiently, because we expose those traps for young players so that better decisions get made. And what we do works. It brings us great joy to see the success of the people who are members of the Results Mentoring Program. But as an example, James wanted to be out of work. He wanted to retire and quit from his job. And so he decided to seek support from us about how to do property investing efficiently, effectively, profitably. And we taught him. And we taught him everything that was relevant for him to know on the deals that he was undertaking along the journey and what the next steps for him may be. And within 5 years, he was able to resign from his job. He's now a full-time developer with having made more than $6 million in profit over the last, let's say, 10 years, since 2014, so 8 years. So it's been a fantastic journey for him. And it brings us great joy to have been able to help influence his decisions to make that outcome a reality for him. So if actually people who do know us and have heard of us and are interested in the Results Mentoring Program, my encouragement, and if you'd be kind enough, just type into the chat window, I'm interested, anytime during this webinar. And what we'll do is we'll follow up with a phone call and say, hi, how you going? And find out how we might be able to support you if that is something that you're interested in having done. So one of the Results Mentoring mentors will give you a call and touch base. So if you are interested, please, by all means, type in the chat window, I'm interested, and we'll follow it up. Very quickly, webinar logistics. So how's tonight going to play out? There is an opportunity for you to ask questions. Unfortunately, there's no opportunity for me to answer them immediately. So we will be holding off answering all questions at the end, but I will stay online and keep the webinar running until all questions have been answered. So ensure that if you have any questions, please write them in the chat window, and we'll be able to answer those questions before we hang up tonight. Planned runtime is around about 60 minutes. The conversation's probably likely to go for about 45, 50 odd, and then we'll go into questions. Not sure when it'll finish. Obviously, it depends on the questions themselves, but and the number of them. However, every effort's going to be made to keep the time to a fairly relatively limited component. We won't be doing this for 6 hours, I assure you. Okay, what if something goes wrong? Now, being the fact that this is a technical avenue for communication, not all things work all the time. There are gremlins in the system that do play out from time to time. So if something goes wrong for you and you drop off, then by all means, re-enter the room using the same link. If something falls away for me, I will be doing exactly the same as fast as I can so that you can re-enter the room as soon as possible. So keep trying for a little while. If it all crashes and burns, worry not, we will be recording this. I will continue, should it all crash and burn, to finish the webinar as a recording, and we will send it out. So you will get access to the material that we're talking about. So what is the material we're talking about? What is tonight's webinar all about? Well, tonight's webinar is all about renovations and how to do them and avoid the traps for young players. Now, what do I mean by young players? People new to renovation, or people who are less experienced with renovation. People who have had a crack and crash and burned, or people who have had a crack and done well but want to make sure that they don't make any mistakes going forward. This webinar is all about the tips and tricks that will help you to make better decisions for your renovation, such that you walk away more profitable and less out of pocket. So how are we going to do that? We're going to talk about different forms of renovation projects. They all form the basic model of I have something, I'm looking to make it better, and then I'm looking to either live in it, rent it, or sell it. And each of those have different idiosyncrasies about them, but we're going to explore those very briefly. Then we're going to go into the risks. Where does it go wrong? Where does it typically fall over and cause problems for people? Then we're going to talk about, well, how do we put things in place? What can we put in place to ensure that we mitigate the vast majority of these risks? We won't be able to mitigate all of them because human beings are human beings and world shifts. But that said, we can mitigate the vast majority of them and give us the best chance for making profit in any renovation project that we want to take on. Following that, we're going to talk about a recent renovation real deal that was done by one of our results members. An extraordinary deal, and it was sold only about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I'll check on that when we talk about it. And since then, she has purchased her next project and is shortly, if not already, underway on that. So I'm excited to be able to share that story of hers with you. Very exciting. And then we will close out with a light commentary on the Home Builder Grant for renovation, its purpose, the accessibility and limitations of it. And finally, we will, bit of luck and a good wind, be able to throw a couple of suburbs your way that might in fact be suburbs of interest for undertaking a reno, but more about that later. Okay, so renovation projects. No two renovation projects are the same. And the key to the identity for different renovation programs comes down to why you're actually renovating. And as I said, there are primarily 3 reasons a person renovates. 4 if you include some generosity. The first is lifestyle. Now, if you think about it, nobody generally renovates as a goodwill gesture. Sure, they might throw a day's labor to help somebody else out, but they don't do a full-blown renovation at their own expense for the good of others. As much as charitable contribution is wonderful, most people who do renovations recognize there is work, recognize it requires effort, recognize it requires money, and they're doing it for a win for them to experience. And that win is in the terms of an improved lifestyle, the ability to sell the property for a higher price, or the ability to rent the property for a higher price. And these are the 3 primary objectives that people do a renovation for. Now, that said, a number of these renovations go wrong, and a number of these renovations and the people who do them experience a cost that they didn't expect. So what goes wrong and why? Another reason why, and this is a reason where I started, another reason why people do renovations is I want to see if I can. I want to test my skills. I want to prove to myself or prove to somebody, my wife, my partner, my husband, I want to prove to somebody that I can do it. Somebody said I couldn't, I want to prove that I could, or I wanted to see if I could do it. The motivation for seeing if I can is a motivation other than financial. If you're going into a project that is for a motivation other than a financial win, other than a lifestyle win, then you need to be prepared that it will cost you. And smile as you spend the money and walk away with less money than you actually first started with. Because what you will have got is proof that you can do it, proof that you can't, or a pile of fun along the way from what you've learned. Me, when I first started, I really enjoyed my first experience at testing and measuring myself. Did an amazing amount of work and made a loss. And you do that. And you pick up and you go again and you learn. And on the back of what I've learned, I'm able to speak to you tonight about the right way or the better ways to be able to do renovation and preserve profit and incur less expense. So from that then, proving lifestyle, being able to sell for a higher amount or being able to rent it for more, we need to now look at the sort of renovations that could be undertaken. Now, there are a range of renovations that you can undertake. A light refresh is a possibility one. One of the ones that works really well for a quick add value in a property is a light refresh. And the light refresh simply consists of paint. So you paint the property inside and out and refresh it visually that way. Stage it, meaning you put great hire property, rental property, you put rental furniture in the property so that when people walk through, they open for inspections on sale or walk through for rental, they can see what it can look like and are inspired to dig deeper to own the property or to live there. Now that works primarily for people who are owner-occupiers. It doesn't work so well for people who are looking to invest the renovated property, buy it as an investment, because investors are more exposed, more financially considerate, whereas owner-occupiers are more emotionally engaged in wanting to live there. So if you can put an image forward for an emotional buy-in from an owner-occupier, they are more than likely to dig a little deeper to own the property, or will go for your property over a neighbouring house that's also for sale that is not staged as well. So paint it, stage it, and the third thing is landscaping. If you spend a few dollars on working on the landscaping and you improve particularly the street appeal, then you are more likely to get people through the front door to check out your house. Street appeal can't be underestimated. My encouragement is to spend energy, time, and money on improving street appeal so that people actually desire to stop the car, get out, and have a look. That makes a significant difference in the number of offers that come your way, significant difference in the number of applications to rent your property. So my encouragement is make street appeal good, and landscaping is one of the ways you can do that. So a light refresh, you're spending up to about 4% of the value of the property on a light refresh, which is staging, landscaping, painting. Cosmetic reno is where you're not changing any of the structural components of the house. You're not moving any of the walls, you're not moving any of the doors, you're not changing anything specifically at all, but you are maybe changing the kitchen, you are maybe changing the bathroom, you are doing painting, you may be doing the floor coverings, curtains, light fittings, obviously with the right trades involved. And the purpose of that is to significantly lift the impression of value of the house. Now, if you're going to do a cosmetic renovation and your budget is generally around about 10%, up to 10% of the value of the property. And for every dollar you spend, you're looking to get about $3 lift in value as an approximation. Light structural renos. Light structural renos are often accompanying light cosmetics. Light structural renos mean the moving of a wall, the moving of a door, or creating a doorway where there wasn't one, moving of windows, the merging of a 4-bedroom house, merging of 2 bedrooms into one to make it a larger master with maybe an ensuite and a walk-in robe. We're talking about light structural changes, but within the footprint that is the house. We're not talking extending. In a light structural environment, you're looking to spend probably up to 15% of the value of the property at purchase or at the start of the project. If you're looking to do a small extension, there's obviously additional cost. You've got structural costs going out the back of the property, and you're looking to spend probably up to about 30% in a small extension. We then get into larger projects where you've got a restructure inside the house and a full cosmetic reno. That's a significant restructure rather than a light structural change, and that can be up to 40%. That might be a little high. You might want to probably be a little more conservative, not maybe 30, 35%. But a full restructure, full cosmetic renovation is designed to give the appearance of a complete new elevated level of house. So what you bought or what you're currently living in or what was currently being rented dramatically changes, and you move into a more modern approach to floor plan, and that gives a significant lift in value. And then lastly, you've got the significant extension and restructure, which is in fact basically you're taking about half of the existing house off and building a whole other house on the back, as an example. A significant, and that can cost you in excess of 50% of the value of the property that stands today. So these are the sorts of different renovations that can be taken on, the sorts of budgets you might want to consider at a high level, at least some framework for contemplation around what you're looking to take on. But that doesn't mean these are going to go well just because you've got a budget, and it doesn't mean that they're all going to win. What we do face are some common mistakes that are made by renovators. And the first one, which is again the primary lead into today's webinar, is the idea of overcapitalisation. Now, what is overcapitalisation? Overcapitalisation is when you spend a significant amount on your renovation. You're either doing it on the wrong things, such that it doesn't add the value that you want, or you're doing it on the right things, but you're doing it way too much. And you have spent more money to get the house to where it is than the value of the house is worth upon completion. So let me say that again. Overcapitalisation is where you've got the value of the property and you know what that is today. You do work on the property at a cost, and after that cost has been incurred, the value of property does not match, does not meet, is not as high as what you started with as value plus the cost that you spent. You have overcapitalised. Now, there are a couple of things that cause that. If you are, just a word on overcapitalisation as an owner-occupier looking to improve their house. I'm a fan of if this is a lifestyle outcome for you. In other words, you've worked hard, you're looking, you've been saving, you're conscious about what you're doing, you know you want a better lifestyle, you've got to a point where you're looking to, after budgeting and thinking and planning, you've got to a point where you want to do a significant renovation for the purpose of improving lifestyle. If that's your desire, I'm a fan that overcapitalisation of a small amount is not a major problem. Why? It's a lifestyle decision. You'll be enjoying that. There is a prize in an emotional level for having achieved that. And you'll be living in that state for a good 10 or 15 years before moving, before selling. So if that is your nature, then don't be afraid to spend a little bit more. Ultimately, that will lift the value of your property. So typically what I've seen is that if you buy something or live in something that's worth about $300,000, again, arbitrarily created here as an example, it's $300,000 when you start. You spend $100,000, you get it valued at the back end through a real estate agent getting his opinion, and they say it's worth $380,000. You've overcapitalized by $20,000. My encouragement is don't worry about that. If you've got a 10 or 15 year lifestyle enjoyment out of this from this renovation, that $20,000 will be covered substantially and easily. If, however, you've got a $300,000 property, you spend $1 million on your renovation and it's only worth $400,000, it's going to take a long, long time for that $400,000 to reach $1 million before you break even on value. That sort of overcapitalization is incredibly detrimental. So my encouragement is don't do that. So there is a certain amount of, lifestyle renovation, there is a certain amount of do's and don'ts. Overcapitalisation occurs from people generally striving to produce the perfect renovation. They have a vision in their mind of the Taj Mahal of houses, the perfect renovation of houses. And they try and go out and achieve that, thinking that is what is needed in order to sell it for the best price, or in order to rent it for the best price, in order to live the lifestyle that I want to live. It has to be perfect. The dilemma we face with perfect is that perfection costs. another version of that is looking to achieve the new build finish. I want my 1920s house to look like a brand new build. It's never going to look like a brand new build without significant cosmetic expense, even potential structural expense. It's not going to look like that, and the cost could be well in excess of the value of the property once complete. And that's where over-capitalisation occurs. Basically, you are living out of a disconnect between a vision that you have, some idealistic vision that you have, and the finances required to deliver product back into the market that's going to make money. So if you if you spend more than the property can justify, you will make a loss. In essence, what over-capitalisation is. The trick is to be clear on what you want to achieve relative to finances, but more importantly, relative to what people see as value in that area. And we'll get into that a little bit shortly. Another common mistake is under budgeting. Now, what is under budgeting? Under budgeting is a lack of awareness of what things will cost in order to repair. Again, it's a disconnect between vision and finance. It's an idea of, I want to do a bathroom up, let's say, and because I want to do my bathroom, I will buy a new bath and I'll get something from Bunnings. It'll be $100, and I'll either do it myself or the $100. So I'll budget $100 for a bath, not taking into consideration the plumbing requirements, the movement of waste if it's required, the movement of taps if they're required, picking the wrong bath. I want an ideal bath, but it doesn't match the plumbing that's already there. You know, those sorts of things around a vision of what I want, irrespective of the understanding of costs associated with change. And in doing that, in under budgeting, people tend to run out of money. So another form of under budgeting, rather than underestimating the cost it takes, is to have an idea of what you want to do, have a look at the bank balance, say they don't quite meet, but I'm sure I'll squeeze money somewhere, and not be able to squeeze money from anywhere. Under those circumstances, you have not put enough money aside in order to see the project through to completion. Another form of that is not managing to contingencies. There will always be something in a renovation that you don't expect. You've got to expect the unexpected. So you need a small contingency budget in the background to be able to mitigate those surprise moments, those shock moments. And in that, then you might be able to budget to completion. The dilemma you face for taking on too much and not having the time to complete it, taking on too much, not having the money to complete it, is that the job doesn't get done. And if you're looking to sell the project, that's hold costs that you have to incur in a property that people can't live in. Always dangerous. So under budgeting is as insipid a cost to you as over-capitalisation. Again, it's a disconnect between vision that you have and finance available. My encouragement to you is to work a clarity around the numbers and what you're looking to achieve. And we'll get into that a little bit more shortly. Getting emotionally involved in the project is also a significant issue for seeing the project completion on time and in budget. And that comes from, oh, there I am over there. There we go. And that comes from thinking about the finish, again, over-capitalisation, thinking about the finish as much as thinking about and ignoring the money along the way. So one of the most insipid parts of this is changing your mind. I've got a vision of my bathroom looks like this, and halfway through the destruction, you go, oh, if I had this basin, which I saw down the street, rather than the one I was going to get, that would be great. And you find then by doing that, you've picked a wall-mounted one as opposed to a floor-mounted one, which means you need to change the sewage, the plumbing, which means you need to rip up the floor, take off the wall, the plaster of the wall, retile, and the costs just amplify because you've made a change. One of the most dramatic, maybe not the right word, one of the most significant concerns, problems that one of the members that I've was mentoring at the time faced was they changed their mind from a cosmetic to a structural reno halfway through. And the cost, it cost them a lot because they became emotionally engaged in the image of the perfect finish as against what the market there was wanting, what the people there were looking to buy, and what the people in that suburb valued. And that disconnect, the idea that because I like it, everybody else will. Because I think it looks good, everybody else will think it looks good. Under those circumstances, you are setting yourself up for a fail. You are not the market. You've got to consider who the market is, who is buying from you and who's the market. So not sticking to the original plan, increasing the size of the project along the way, the idea of, oh, I've spent this much, a few more $1,000s won't hurt, and I can get such a better finish, does cost you. In for a penny, in for a pound is a problem. You end up spending more than you've planned, and you have the potential to over-capitalize, at least cost more than the value of the property is worth. So again, my encouragement, think clearly about what you want before you start, and then stick to the plan throughout, and that will give you the best chance for success, for achieving the profit, achieving the objective, and for walking away happy and ready to go again. Just again, a small side issue. One of the most insipid consequences of getting it wrong financially is a lack of confidence, is the hit on your self-belief around being able to make money out of renovations, being able to make money out of the work that you do. Don't underestimate that confidence hit. It costs you in time, it costs you in the ability to go again. The opportunity cost is dramatic. Do what you can to avoid going over budget. Do what you can to avoid making a loss. Do what you can to succeed in making a profit, to succeed in living the lifestyle that you want, to succeed in increasing the rent value that you want, the way you anticipated it would, and you have a confidence and a desire to accelerate your ability to go again. That is incredibly powerful. Other common mistakes. Beautiful, subtle, trap for young players, taking out too much, getting too enthusiastic with demolition, getting too enthusiastic with I wonder what's behind here. The more you take out, the more you need to replace. Always fun to be able to rip plaster off a wall and see what's behind. Always exciting to rip up carpet and to see how old the newspaper is underneath and read the articles and look at the fashions from 1920. Always fun doing that. But if it's not essential to the project, if it's not in your plan to do, then don't do it. Be conservative about what you destroy, what you demolish. And then for a cosmetic reno particularly, or even a structural reno, be conservative about what you demolish, because that's less cost to have to replace. So again, care required in the emotional engagement of what you're doing. Because from a personal perspective, demolition, sledgehammers through plasterboard is a pile of fun. Just being overzealous with the demolition does cost and will suck money out of your pocket that you did not expect it to, or you did not want to spend. Again, a lack of awareness of the full impact of replacement kind of goes hand in hand with the demolish too much. If you change your benchtop, so let's say, for example, again, I'm looking to buy a bath, so I buy my $100 bath and I try and fit that in because that's a bath, it's cheap, I want to make that work. But if you're not considering where the waste hole is in the bath, the faucet is in the bath you buy might have it in a different location than the bath that exists. Where the taps go might be different in a different location than where the bath exists. The size of the hob, the frame within which the bath sits, might be different if you get the wrong size bath. You might buy something a little small, you might buy something a little big. And all of that requires change. And if you take the bath out and you crack a tile that was made in the 1920s, the odds are you're not going to find many tiles from the 1920s to replace the individual tile that you broke, and you might need to then replace a whole pile of tiles. So it's a consideration of the impact of what you're trying to achieve. Wanting to avoid needing to spend more to complete the job that you started requires an assessment, fairly clinical one, of the size of the job you're looking to take on. Now, hey, can you get an image of that? Well, you can invite trades through and you can ask. You can speak to people and do some networking around with your friends of property investors, your friends of renovators. If you're out there having a crack on your own, and you've not got many friends or not a significant network of people who do renovations, then you can get into networking groups. A classic example would be Property Meeting. Property Meeting is a networking group designed for the purpose of supporting property investors. There's one in every state of Australia. Except for Tasmania and ACT. And no longer in Northern Territory. In most states of Australia, there are property meetings and different forms of property meetings that exist, meetup groups that exist. Jump into those and talk to fellow renovators. Get some trades in and ask them what needs to be done as you're getting a quote. At least you get an understanding of what needs to be done and learn the language from trades, which will support you in making better judgment decisions on who to employ to do the works that you want. But those are the sorts of things that you would want to do as your image about what you're looking to achieve for your renovation. Again, lack of contingency finance is a problem. It will always be more problematic than you first thought. Classic example for me, I was doing a significant cosmetic renovation, decided to take out a bath and remove the hob and remove the bath and turn it into a shower area. And when I took out the bath, I discovered that in the old house that I had purchased, that the faucet was in fact leaking. The consequence of that was that the stud wall that held the bath, the studs themselves were rotted out at the base of the wall where the floor is. And having removed the plaster, my wall was able to swing in the wind. It would just swing backwards and forwards in the wind. There was nothing supporting the load-bearing wall because the studs had rotted out. The consequence of that was a structural requirement to rebuild that stud wall. Now, that was a surprise and an unexpected. Having a contingency made a difference to be able to solve that problem. So my encouragement is always have a contingency, always have a backup pool of funds for the, hey, cop that. Yeah. Now we get into a different sort of error that gets made with renovations. And it goes along the lines of, I'm renovating to satisfy my taste. I mean, doesn't everybody love pink feature walls? If I'm going to go in and I want to renovate this place, I'll put a pink feature wall there. I'll put a pink feature wall there. And everybody who comes into my house is going to love it. I'll be able to rent it for so much more, or I'll be able to sell it for so much more, or I'll enjoy it and my friends will love being there and they'll want to buy it from me. I don't know what, but it'll have the perception of value. Real estate agents will come in, and when I'm looking to refinance so that I can reinvest, the real estate agents or the valuer might come through and go, interesting color of wall, this is an unrenovated property. So while I appreciate taste is very, very personal, and there are people who adore pink feature walls, more power to you. Renovating to your taste is a recipe for not renovating to the right market. Now, if it's a lifestyle thing for you, go for it. If it's a lifestyle you're looking to satisfy, by all means, enjoy your pink feature wall. But if you're looking to make money from this as a form of increased rent or a form of sale, then your job is not to satisfy your own renovation taste, your own taste for domestic bliss. Your job is to satisfy the taste of domestic bliss of those people who are going to buy the property from you or rent it. So you need to understand what the people like in or want in your area of the renovation that you're doing. The consequence of not following through on that, the consequence of believing that your own righteousness about what you're actually, your finishing style is, may lead to needing to accept a lower price to move on, or accept lower rent in order to, and lower than you'd otherwise planned in order to get it rented rather than maintain vacancy. So caution required for the I'm right, everybody thinks like I do approach. The other cause, again, not directly related to the renovation itself, but to the project, is renovating in the wrong market. Now, we're not talking wrong suburb. We're not talking about producing a product that nobody wants. We're talking about buying in a suburb where the median price is in decline, or buying in a suburb where population is in decline. If you're buying in an area where the suburb values are falling, you are setting yourself up for a significant risk. So where you buy is critical in being able to preserve your ability to make money. Or in fact, if you buy well, you can amplify your profits by buying well. So what I want to now do is introduce to you a system for for a system to avoid common mistakes. I'm just going to go through the webinar chat for a moment. Excellent. So some questions are there. I'll go to those shortly. The idea here is for you to build an understanding of your objectives and an understanding of your numbers. If you have a clinical perspective around your numbers, a clinical perspective around what you're looking to achieve, rather than an emotional engagement on that, then you have a greater chance of walking away with more money than you started with, walking away with a profit, walking away with a higher rent. Let me take you through the system, because this is a sequential approach here. The first thing you want to do is get the current value of your property. Why? Because you need to know what you're playing with. You need to know the foundation or the base on which you're looking to improve from. If you don't know what the value of your property is right now, then the chances are that you don't know whether you've made money or not. The chances are you don't know how good a job you've done or not. And it is always important to get a measure of the level of success that you've been able to achieve in order to learn and grow. So my encouragement would be to get a value of the property, or an understanding of the value of your property today. Now, if you've just bought it, obviously that's the purchase price. If you've had it for a while and it's a rental property and you're looking to increase the rent on it, then you might get a real estate agent through and get a valuation done. We're not looking for rocket science, and I'm definitely not suggesting that you pay for a full-blown valuation. I'm suggesting that through a couple of real estate agents, through an understanding of what else is happening in the suburb or neighbouring houses, or recent sales of other properties similar to yours, you'll get an idea of value. You'd also obviously then want to get an understanding of rent value. So if you've just bought it and you're not clear on the rent value, then you'd get some advice on that too. But on the basis of that, you have a foundation on which you can then go, I can build from this. The next step on that then is to get an image of get an understanding, an idea of what it is you want to accomplish. Now, that from one perspective, it all comes from up here. I want this as an outcome. But to do that in isolation of what's happening around you is a problem. So my encouragement is for you to go to open for inspection, or go to open for inspections, OFIs, open for inspections of other properties that are on the market right now that are renovated. Get an idea of what other people's renovations look like, and get an idea of what they sell for. Get an idea from the people who walk through what they go, wow, to. Get an idea, go to open for inspections for rental properties as well as properties for sale, and see how they're renovated. A renovation for a rental is a very, very different renovation to that of something you're looking to sell. A renovation for a rental is a renovation that needs to be robust. It needs to be pretty much fire hydrant proof, so that when you walk through after one tenant, get the fire hydrant, wash all the walls down the house down, it's robust and it can tolerate it. And it can tolerate it well as a solid investment, a solid renovation that holds up to scrutiny. The flip side is being the renovation for sale. A renovation sale can afford to be more delicate. It can afford to be more presentational. It can afford to be more temporary and more susceptible to damage on account of nobody's living there. It doesn't need to tolerate the existence of a robust lifestyle. It is designed for the impression of building an emotional engagement from buyers. So they're very, very different renovations. Now, if you're looking to renovate, one way, looking to renovate for rental, one way, looking for renovate for sale, another way. Either way, you need to know what you're renovating for and have that idea in your mind. But if you go out there and you have a look at what other people have done, you get an idea of what good is and what bad is. You get an idea of what people like and wow about, and you get an idea of what people turn their nose up against and therefore takes longer to sell or longer to rent. And with your idea around what you think is good, again, disengaging that from all the personal traits per se, plus get an idea of what the market sees as valuable, you'll get a very solid image of what you need to do. And the point of interest here is you need to not produce perfect. This is the whole idea of the renovation for the purpose of making a sale, is not to produce perfect. Unless perfect is desired and a price of perfect exists in that market. So if you're going to renovated properties and the renovated properties are nicely presented, honest houses by people who have lived there, you know that presenting the Taj Mahal or the finish of the Taj Mahal is going to be over-capitalising. People there don't want that. What you need to do is provide something that is better than what other people are doing, but you're doing it as a budget. And that way you can see approximately what you need to spend. More importantly, you know what it sells for, and therefore you know the cap of value that you need to be able to sell it for, and therefore how much money you might be able to make depending upon how much you spend. So look for quality of finish and what will do in a renovation. Look at the levels of interest and the number of attendees for those open for inspections. And look at the market. Are they kids on hips coming through? Or are they retirees? Or are they double income, no kids, starry-eyed who are looking to live the dream? You know, who's coming through the house? And what are their tastes and desires? Because that's the target market you're looking to satisfy. Look at who's buying and what they like. Think about the essential works that you want to do for your reno. And even if this is for your own home, the same rules apply. If this is a lifestyle decision for you, the same rules apply, which means look at what other people are doing. And if you like what they're doing, then incorporate that into your house so that you get to enjoy what's current and modern that other people are seeking great prices to be able to, or justifying great prices for. And that way you are preserving and amplifying profit in your own deal. Part 3, determine the values of renovated properties. Mentioned in part 2, part 3, what is the value? Part 4, you then need to determine all of the necessary costs that you are going to have to incur during this project. Okay. For a buy, reno, sell project, there are buying costs, holding costs, and selling costs. You have to incur buying costs. You can't avoid those. If you are looking to do a buy, reno, sell project, nobody's living there. Therefore, you're going to have to incur the holding costs. You can't avoid that either. If you are looking to sell it, there is real estate agent fees. There are selling costs. There's commissions. There are marketing fees. There are selling costs. These are things you must incur. Figure out what those costs are. If you're looking to a buy, reno, rent project and you've just bought the property, great, there are buying costs, but there are also holding costs while you're renovating. What you want to be able to do is make sure that you've mitigated all of the expenses so you don't spend more than you plan to, so you have an idea of a reno budget, and so that you can know the profit you're walking away with before you actually sign on the dotted line. I'll explain that a little bit more shortly. Or if you're looking to renovate your own home, do you actually need to leave home while the renovation occurs? Or are you going to do this around yourselves? Buy, live-in reno projects actually can be quite testing on a marriage, on a partnership, for kids. So if you're going to do a buy, live-in reno, my suggestion, what I've found historically through people I've mentored in my own life, is when you're young and there are no kids, you're far more tolerant of that sort of thing than when you're as old as I am now and you have kids. They're far less tolerant of mess and ugliness for longer periods of time. So generally speaking, if you're going to do a massive cosmetic renovation, you might want to leave. If you're going to do a structural renovation, you have to leave. So you'll have to incorporate your accommodation costs in that. Okay, from that, we then get to the mathematics of it, which is, what is the end value? What will this thing be worth once I've renovated? Then I take away from that what the current value is, because we've already figured that out. Then I take away from that all of those necessary costs that I'm going to have to incur in order to see this project through. And what I'm left with is a reno budget and an amount for a profit. If you do not want to over-capitalize, do not go above that number. Do not go above the reno budget number. If you go end value minus current value minus necessary costs equals reno budget, there is no profit there. And if you're looking to make a profit, this equation won't work. If you're looking for a lifestyle, that's okay. But if you go a cent over that budget there, you will be losing money. If you want to make a profit, how are we going for time? Getting on. If you want to make a profit, then you'll need to incorporate not only the renovation budget in there, but you'll need to incorporate a profit margin as well. And a profit margin that is fair and reasonable to expect out of a cosmetic reno might be 10% of the value of the property, the current value. But whatever the budget is for you, make sure this equation works. Now, if you follow this 5-step, and there is a 6th step, which I'll talk about shortly, if you follow this 5-step system to date, you will never over-capitalize again. You will never under-budget. You'll recognize that the budget you're spending to, and stop seeking perfection, because you'll know what people want and you know what it will take. And you'll have done some work to recognize what things will cost along the way, so that you're not walking into it idealistic and naive. And it minimizes the risk of emotional involvement by making it all about the numbers. It minimizes the risk of emotional involvement. Now, what I want to do is demonstrate how this works. And I'm going to do so by inviting one of Results members, Wendy Chamberlain, to join me. Now, that's going to take a few seconds. So, welcome, Wendy. Tell me, Wendy, a little bit about yourself. You're a Results graduate.
I've done Results for a few years now.
Enjoy it?
Yeah, love it. Love it. It's good to check in, and the get-togethers are wonderful as well. It always, it's good to catch up with people, and that's where you find other opportunities as well.
Cool. So, what I want to do, because I flapped my gums much more than I anticipated I would, not uncommon, I might add. And what I'd like to do is go through your deal to give people an insight on your thinking process for this, so that people can see how buy, renovate, and sell can actually work as a profitable outcome. So let me start firstly. Why renovation? What was it that drove you to renovation?
I love renovating because I find it fun, but also you can make quick cash, and then you can take that cash to do whatever it is that you want. You've covered some things earlier in the call tonight. So for us, it allows us to get into our next deal, but it also allows you that choice of lifestyle as well.
So how did you find this one?
This one came through one of my networks that I've established with real estate agents. So when you're out there hunting, it really is important that you start establishing relationships with the great agents in the areas, because they're going to bring you deals like this.
And that's, for me, that's actually an incredibly powerful point. We have a scenario where there are a number of people who go, I want to buy a house. I'll look at realestate.com.au, spend my time studying and learning realestate.com.au, and then I'll get my house. But houses actually don't come from realestate.com.au. Houses come from real estate agents.
That's right, yes.
Realestate.com.au is to start communication with a real estate agent. It's not about, I've seen it, here's my check, I've bought it. It is, I've seen it, talk to a real estate agent, start working about it with a real estate agent, and then the real estate agent introduces you to other properties that may in fact work. So building a network is critical.
That's right. And once you've identified what you're looking for, the suburb, etc., get in touch with agents. Even if you're seeing stock that has sold, get in touch with them and say, look, I saw this one. Have you got anything else like that? This is what I'm looking to do. This is my budget. And start getting your feet on the ground and establishing those relationships with the agents, because when they know you're serious, they bring you the serious deals.
So given serious, if you want to talk serious, let's get serious for a little while. There was a problem or two with this property.
Yeah, a minor leak in the property.
A rising damp issue.
Yes, we needed masks even before COVID for this one.
The mold would have stunk horribly.
It stunk. It was damp. It'd been locked up for 12 months because this was a deceased estate. He'd been moved into a home, the gentleman that owned it, and it had been locked up. I'm sure he was living in it in this type of condition, because we had a 2-month settlement on it, and it didn't get any worse over those 2 months. So can you imagine how it got to this state?
Yeah.
It was terrible.
We had a water problem.
Toilet leak, and that's what happens when your toilet leaks.
Amongst other
mold on the phone. I don't know if you can see there that on that little, there's mold on the phone, mold in the toilet, mold everywhere. It was up to your armpits. It was, I had to keep telling the tradies, don't lean there, don't lean there. I'm like, what? Don't touch anything.
And this was the kitchen beforehand. So then you spend a little time, worked on it, solved some problems, and you are able to renovate it. How about we go through some of the photos about what it looked like?
Yes.
This is what you turned it into.
Yes.
An extraordinary conclusion.
And picking up on one of the points you said earlier on the call, renovate through end buyer. You don't renovate this house for what I want. You renovate it for the person that's going to buy it. And you know what? The person that bought this house was exactly the person I renovated for.
Yeah. Again, you did the research prior to buying it to know what their needs and desires were, and you simply renovated to match.
That's right.
It is a stunning outcome. Again, congratulations. Brilliant.
Thank you.
That was the final product. Now, how long did it take you? Now, you did a little more than a cosmetic. You did a light structural reno. Yes. How long did that take you to complete?
We had 3 weeks of Christmas in there, which is basically tools down, but there was 3.5 months for the reno, and it was 7 months end to end with the settlements either end. I think it was about 6.5 months. Yeah.
7 months. So you bought it, settled on it. From settlement to settlement, completing the reno, putting it back on the market, and your buyer from you settling on it took 7 months, all up, end to end.
With Christmas break in there, yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And okay, so you know I adore you, but I'm just going to say a very quick thing. Not uncommon. It is a system. You simply tapped into the system and followed the process of doing cosmetic renovation buy, reno, sell projects. It is the system that is doable almost by anybody who's willing to put the time and effort in to make that happen. And you applied yourself brilliantly to do so. Congratulations.
Thank you. And also what you mentioned earlier in the call, like, don't decide we're putting this bath in, but I like this one better. No, that's where you're plumbing in. That's the bath that's going in, not that one. It's this one. You don't change your mind through the middle of it.
Yeah, it costs.
Costs money. This was on a slab, and it costs money to cut a slab.
Yeah, it's valid. If you have to remove the waste out of a bath to go from the left-hand side of the bath to the center of the bath in a concrete slab, you're up for a lot of dollars in reconstruction. Not a lot of fun. And if you're going for a claw bath, not only do you have to repair that, then you've got to do the tiles underneath and relay the floor entirely. Massive, massive expense. So again, fit to what's there, but build to purpose for the buyer.
Exactly.
Right, so now what I want to do is go through the numbers, and I want to illustrate to people how the numbers work at a high level so that we can take the emotion out and look at the profitability in the deal before buying so that you know you're going to make money. Okay. The costs themselves are broken down into whatever the buy price is. There are buy costs. There are holding costs. Now, in your renovation, just going to duck in here, in your renovation, you spent $143,000 on your reno, but part of that was also the water leaks. Tell me a little bit about the water leaks.
Well, as you saw, there was a bit of mold in there. So the toilet was leaking, the shower was leaking, and plus there was it was one of a pair, and the wall behind the rear gutters, which shouldn't supposed to be this high, were on this high. So every time it rained, it came over the top. So there was a lot of issues with dampness. And we had to repair that. I can't renovate and leave a house because some people might just have left it, but we can't. I don't do that. So we fixed everything up. And someone's asked on the chat, did I do the work myself? No, I had trades do everything. I was on site cleaning up after them, but I just basically project managed the trades through the.
But again, if you're running this as an operation for profit, whether it's buy reno sell, buy reno rent, but you're doing it for the income, you can't afford to DIY it because you're then taken away from the game of running the business and building your wealth. You're taken away from the game of running your property portfolio. Your job is to engage people to do those services and those things that you require so that you're free to build the portfolio and build your wealth. So our encouragement is not, sure, for those people who love DIY and have a passion that incorporates DIY into what they're looking to do, by all means, go for it. But you're doing that from an emotional position, not necessarily from a profitability position.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I did the garden in that. But having said that, I went to Bunnings and I got a rehab, and I would swing past Bunnings all the time, and I would get the plants that were half dead and I would rehab them. So most of the garden, which looks amazing, are plants that are in the chuck out pile.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Special note, coffees and muffins every day.
That's right. Look after your trades. We had 40-degree days. We were renovating over Christmas. There were hot days here in Melbourne. So these coffees, water, muffins, it doesn't cost you a lot of, it's like $470. Doesn't cost you a lot of money, because when I needed something moved or changed, even on a Sunday, the trade said, I'll be there, and they come straight away. It's really worth the investment in them, so they look after you. Also
paying immediately.
Yes, pay them immediately. I'm having to follow up my trade saying, invoice me. I need to be able to pay you. Some only want to be paid right at the end. Some want half up. They operate differently, but they like it when you're prompt. And I will tell you, they all talk to each other. They know what's going on, and they know who the good ones are and who are not as good with paying. And they'll look after you. So
don't drag out payment. If you want to build the relationship, pay them immediately. Have the work be done, and there'll be a desire from their part to want to serve and support you.
Absolutely. And even with the next project that we're about to start, they're coming. When I ask them to come and quote, they're there. Tell me a day, I'm going to be there, Wendy. That's what they're telling me.
So you bought this for $586. There are a whole pile of costs in the middle, including the renovation. You sold it at $881, and you made $91,000 in profit. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so that's 7 months. What month did you buy it?
31st of October. So end of October.
And what month did you sell it?
March. We had our auction set for the 28th of March. Guess when they cancelled all the auctions? Exactly like they did this week in lockdown suburbs. They cancelled auctions on the 21st, 2nd, 3rd, 24th. So we actually auctioned on the 25th. We were due for the 28th. So we had to bring it forward to a Wednesday night.
So you bought the auction forward to the Wednesday night, and you sold it the days before lockdown for $881 and made $91,000.
Yes, and that was always our pre-COVID reserve.
Brilliant. All right. So Now that COVID's hit, now that we are in lockdown, have been in lockdown, now that and again, if you look at the news, it's all miserable and it's all the world's falling apart, etc. What have you gone and done?
We bought another Reno.
Bought another Reno. So tell me about your Reno.
Well, even when we were going through the settlement period of the previous one, which was in Coburg here in Melbourne, I was on the phone to you talking about suburbs based on, because you mentioned previously about the property predictions, which is your tool which can predict where what suburbs are going up or going flat or going down based on what you're trying to do in that suburb. So we had that conversation saying, this is our budget. I don't want to go more than, my rule is 15 minutes from home because I have to be on site managing the trades. And we did a sort of a radius of where those suburbs would be in Melbourne. And I was looking at a deal in Brunswick at that point, but then I'd taken notes. And then another deal came up, which was this one, which is in Kensington. So we've bought a Victorian in Kensington to renovate. And the circumstances, again, through relationships with agents. I wasn't really even looking in Kensington. I just looked at one in Flemington, actually, and they said, would you look at this one? As it turned out, the vendor needed to get this property sold by the 30th of June for their tax. So there's an opportunity there. We're ready to buy. And the bank valued it $50,000 more than we paid for it.
Brilliant. So you've already had a $50,000 lift just from buying and negotiating and signing contracts.
Yes.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
That is brilliant. So Wendy, pearls of wisdom. What's a pearl of wisdom that you can put forward for people watching this about taking on renovations and not falling victim to the common mistakes, for doing it successfully?
I think you need to look at the property that you're buying. What kind of property is it, and who is your end buyer that is going to buy this property? So, for example, the one that we just did in Coburg, that's a totally different suburb and buyer demographic to who is going to be buying this other one in Kensington. So we're going to be aiming at a professional couple, even a gay couple potentially, for this renovation that we're doing. It was a different Reno in Coburg. It was a young couple. So you really need to know who your end demographic is and what their budget is, because you need to know if you're buying for X and you need to be able to sell for Y, how much you need to put into the deal to make it work, because you have to have your set costs with a little bit of a buffer, because as you said, things always come up. So things that you don't expect are always going to come up. So you need to make sure that you've got a little bit of fat in your deal, but you have to be very firm on what you know, day in, day out, COVID or not, what you're going to get on your end price. And anything on top of that is a cream, but you need to know what is your exit strategy as well, because you don't want to take a bath on anything that you do.
Yep. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Know your
Wendy,
numbers.
Know your numbers. So end value minus current value minus the necessary costs equals your reno budget and your profit. And you play with your reno budget to suit your profit. Getting too greedy, you're not going to do the job. Spending too much, you're not going to make the money. The balance has got to be there. Brilliant, Wendy. Brilliant. Thank you. So thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to conclude very shortly. I really, really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.
You're welcome. There was one question about that Coburg property. That was a slab, not a subfloor, slab.
Oh, well done. Great.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay. I promised you a sixth point, and the sixth point is all centered on reading the market. So your job now is to read the suburb, and your job is to understand one of the common mistakes is buying in an environment that is not conducive to doing a project and then moving on. And one of the ways you can do this, or a system for being able to understand what's happening in the market, is to look at yipmag.com.au for median price and number of sales. Look at realestate.com.au for listings and vacancies, and monitor regularly over a period of time to get an idea of property price direction. Okay. Let me give you an example. It's going to take a few seconds. I'm looking at Seymour as an example. Okay. So if I go into YipMag, I go into, let's say, move back, go into top suburbs, something like that. So it's Your Investment Property Mag. You get, if you click on top suburbs, you get a search bar, type in Seymour, Seymour. You want Victoria 3660, search. If you look at that, hopefully it comes up. There we go. There'll be ads, there'll be things to watch out for. But if you have a look at Seymour, you get some data. You get a graph of median price and you get a graph of number of sales. Now, the median price will show that the median price has been relatively flat for at least a year. And number of sales has also been relatively flat, hovering around 100 for about a year. So that's actually not too bad. What we've got is a consistent, solid market of number of sales leading into March 2020. Now, obviously, COVID hit. We had lockdowns. We've had a variety of change. I get it. The upshot in the property market is that the number of sales went down, the number of listings went down, the number of listings is on the way up, the number of sales is on the way up. What we'll see in April when the next lot of statistics comes out is a drop in the number of sales, but that's okay, it's historic, and we've already reverted back to a higher level of sales. So let's leave this as a representation of truth, albeit missing the point around COVID, but a representation of truth. On that also, we also get an idea then of the number of sales being 96, or up here, number of sales being 96, or here, the number of sales being 96. We also get a median price, rental price is 320, or if you have a look up here, median advertised price is 320. Okay, then we want to look at realestate.com.au. So we click on here. I'll just go back to the start. We go into buy. I want to look at Seymour, Victoria. I want to look at houses and I want to look at townhouses. Why? Because I'm looking in the housing market, not unit market, just housing market. In Seymour, select. There are 44 properties on the market right now. Now, if I go back into Yip Mag, I see there are 96 sold. If I go into realestate.com.au, I see there are 44 on the market. Basically, what that's saying is there are 2 properties sold for every property on the market, which means we're in a warmish type market. That's positive. If you look at the rent, so we go back here, we look at rent. Seymour, again, you're looking at houses, looking at looking at, come on, focus, houses, looking at townhouses, search. If you're looking at that, there are 6 properties on the market right now for rent. You go, 6, that's not a lot. Is that good or bad? Well, then if you go into census, so you go into census data, so click on census. Census comes up, you type in Seymour, Seymour, not N, M-O-U-R. Seymour, Victoria, SSC, representing suburb, search. You'll see the statistics for Seymour come up. If you scroll down to beyond that, dwellings, you get that there are the majority of dwellings are houses. 88% of them are houses. 8% are flats. And if you have a look, 32% of all houses are rented. So if you think that there are 794 dwellings that are rentals and there are only 6 right now that are up for rent, the implication is that it is a very tight rental market. Now, if you've got a tight rental market and you're looking to do a renovation for rent, that will serve you for increasing your rent. If you had an abundance of rental properties and you're looking to do a significant cosmetic reno to increase your rent, you might over-capitalize because the number of properties on the market and the supply might be so great that people may not pay that much extra for your rented property. So the timing in the market needs to work. But we've got a warm market, given we've got twice as many people buying properties as we have properties on the market right now. and we have a tight rental demand. Seymour is potentially a great environment to be considering doing a reno. Now, I wanted to share that with you as a possibility. In addition to that, if I go back to here, there, I have gone around the country using the Property Predictions database to identify other potential reno suburbs. So if we have a look, let me minimize that. Let me click on that. Potential growth suburbs favouring renovation. Seymour, Victoria is one of them. Oak Flats in New South Wales is another. Lotta in Queensland is one of them. Williston in in South Australia is one of them. Launceston in Tasmania is one of them. And Karama in Northern Territory is one of them. So I raise that as possibilities for you for doing some research if you're looking to do a buy, reno, sell project. Wonderful. Now, I promised at the start of the night we'd talk very briefly about the homeowners or home builder renovation grant. The home builder renovation grant is really designed to serve owner-occupiers. And the window to be able to access it is really quite tight. And there are some fairly significant restrictions in play that means not everybody's able to do it, and it's going to be difficult to find a home in order to take advantage of a $25,000 grant. And you question whether it's a valuable thing to be doing just for $25,000. Because if you have a look at the criteria, it's only for renovating an established home. It's only for owner-occupiers. No investors, no developers, and no owner-builders can apply for this. The renovation must be substantial, meaning it's got to cost somewhere between $150,000 and $750,000. Works need to commence within 3 months of the contract, and the contract being the builder's contract. So you must engage a builder. You can't be an owner builder. You can't do the trade yourself. You need to engage a builder, which means you need plans, you need permits, you need all the authority stamped and ready to go. So if you, and really it ends then again, it's a 6-month window and it ends on December 31. So we are now July 1. If you are an if you're an owner occupier looking to do a reno, now would be a great time for you to consider that. But if you weren't considering it, time might be a little tight. You'll have to get the concept designs drawn up. You'll have to get the plans drawn up. You'll have to get them to council, get them through council, get them approved, get the working drawings done, get the tender out to get the right builder in place, get the builder to sign it. Having had the builder sign it, he's got to start within 3 months. He can't start 4 months later. He's got to start within 3 months. The value of the property can't be less. It has to be less than $1.5 million, and you've got to spend between $150,000 and $750,000. If you earn more than $200,000 as a family, you can't use the grant. If you earn more than 125 as an individual, you can't use the grant. So it's really got quite dramatic limitations and is definitely not for everybody. And the primary objective of it is to serve trade, is to serve builders. If you get builders engaged, they will get trades engaged. That'll keep money flowing. So if you've already got an objective in mind for a renovation you're looking to do on your own home, then by all means do what you can to make it happen in the next 6 months, because there is a $25,000 grant that will allow you to take advantage of a better outcome. But if you're not in that space right now, I question the viability of being able to get there in the time frame that you've got, given the parameters as required. That draws to a close our conversation about renovations tonight. Now, if you're interested in doing the next results mentoring program starts soon. If you're interested in enrolling in the remote results mentoring program, or are interested in hearing more about it, or wanting to talk to a property mentor, just type "I'm interested" into the chat window, and that will give us the impetus to call you, and we will follow up and give you a phone call to say, hey, you registered your interest. tell me how can we help you, and we can start a conversation about it. I want to thank you ever so much for joining me tonight. It has been a pleasure to be able to share this with you. Thank you ever so much for listening to me rant and rave about the value of renovations, how to do them and how to do them profitably. I enjoy being able to share the ability for people to be able to make better buying decisions and better investing decisions. To that end now, I'm going to close off other than answering all the questions.